The Trump administration says 75,000 federal employees have accepted its offer, resign now, in exchange for pay and benefits through September. Some who made that choice, though, are being told they're not eligible. NPR's Andrea Hsu spoke with one of them this week.
I met Liz Goggin at her home in Washington, D.C. She's a licensed clinical social worker for the VA, and she's a mom of 2 young kids who were home because of a snow day.
Okay, Bubba. Okay.
Before the start of her workday, Goggin sat down to share her personal views on everything that's happened over the past few weeks since Trump returned to office. And boy, it's been a lot. First, Trump's funding freeze. It didn't affect her work at the VA, but her husband works in foreign aid.
It became pretty clear that he was very likely to lose his job.
Then days later came an email with the subject line, "Fork in the Road."
I got it late.
Around 11 p.m. The Trump administration was inviting nearly all federal workers to resign. And those who did it within 9 days could stay on the payroll through September.
My initial reaction, honestly, was kind of fear, like, oh my gosh, if a lot of people take this, what's going to happen to services?
At the VA and elsewhere. Now, Goggin loves working with veterans. She first came to the VA a decade ago as a postgraduate fellow. Still, being able to resign and keep getting paid through September?
In the abstract, it did sound like a good offer.
It could be helpful, given her family is about to lose an entire income.
My husband and I talked about it, and if this offer was legitimate, it seemed like, wow, this could give, I'm a highly competitive worker. There's lots of jobs available. I could potentially be making double salary for 6 months.
While her husband regrouped. So that first weekend, she took the fork in the road.
I did. I hit resign on the email.
And she got an automated reply saying her response had been received. She emailed her supervisor to let her know. But then, a few days later, came another email, this one from the VA. Turns out Liz Goggin isn't eligible to resign.
Actually, social workers are exempt, which didn't surprise me.
In fact, in this new email, the VA listed dozens and dozens of positions as exempt. So now she thinks she still has a job.
But who knows? I had regrets about telling my supervisor, given that, the whole thing is kind of unraveling.
Goggin is also wondering, assuming she still has a job, will she be able to do her job well under Trump? These days, she works with clients of all ages, some Vietnam War vets, others who deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan. They're of different races, ethnicities, and genders.
At this point, the group I work with, I would say, is majority Black. But yeah, people from all walks of life.
Now, social workers are bound by a code of ethics. They're supposed to help vulnerable people. They pledge to treat each person with care and respect. Goggin says, as a white clinician working with people of color, she benefits from trainings and discussions around how people of different backgrounds process events in their lives.
How they're impacted by lived experiences of racism and other forms of oppression.
But since Trump took office, trainings have been halted, discussions discouraged. Given Trump's executive actions to end diversity initiatives and to recognize only 2 sexes, male and female, Goggin isn't sure what's still okay. Whether even support groups where her clients discuss topics like race and gender can continue.
I don't know what this means for the future, and I do worry about that.
She says her clients at the VA, many of them federal employees themselves, are worried too. Andrea Hsu, NPR News, Washington.
4 out of 5 federal employees live and work outside the Washington, D.C. area. They are scattered throughout the country, including Kansas City, Missouri, where KCUR's Frank Morris joins us. Frank, thanks for being with us.
Happy to be here, Scott.
Kansas City's a regional hub for the federal government. How many federal workers are there?
We're talking about nearly 30,000 people here, Scott, many of them on edge this weekend. Of course, this trouble started last week with an unsigned fork in the road email offering employees their normal salary and benefits for up to 8 months if they agree to quit right away, threatening that they may be fired anyway if they pass up the offer. This is part of Elon Musk's push to slash the federal workforce. Subsequent emails fleshed out the deferred resignation offer and ratcheted up pressure on workers to take it. Shannon Ellis, president of the local chapter of the National Treasury Employees Union here, represents about 6,000 IRS employees here, and she says it's unclear if federal workers who agree to quit will receive any of the benefits promised to them under the deferred resignation offer. And she says these workers are stressed.
Oh my gosh, they're scared. They are so scared. I mean, I have people approaching me. They're crying. You know, what do I do? They're scared to death. They're just waiting, for the next one, which is, if I don't sign this, am I now terminated?
Frank, federal judges stalled the deadline for taking the buyout into Monday so that a hearing can be held to weigh some of the legal challenges by labor unions. Does that ease anxiety of federal workers?
Well, no. Many federal employees here don't feel safe at work or even at home. The email barrage is coming in lockstep with scathing public attacks on federal workers. Trump's press secretary, Carolyn Leavitt, for instance, describes federal employees who work from home as lazy and taunts them to take the buyout if they, quote, want to rip the American people off. Ellis says federal workers have been demonized before, but what's happening now, she says, is unprecedented.
We are painted as such villains, and this time it's coming from everywhere. And honestly, I mean, we don't feel safe.
Elon Musk posted that his goal is to cut the federal workforce with the buyout offer by about 10%, which would mean roughly 200,000 people. What would that look like in a place like Kansas City?
So a 10% cut here would be huge. The federal government is the largest employer in greater Kansas City. It accounts for about 2.5% of the total workforce here. 10% cut would trim almost 3,000 jobs. Frank Link, director of economic research at the Mid-America Research Council, points out that that'd be about the equivalent job-wise of losing a major auto assembly plant, so a real shock. Link says federal jobs pay more than average here, and that money comes into the regional economy from outside, so those wages make a big difference.
Overall, for every federal job, there's another job created in the metro, so they're powerful jobs from that standpoint.
So for every federal job lost, say, in Kansas City, another job might fall away in the local economy. And, of course, there are a number of cities who would have a concentration of federal employees, aren't there?
That is absolutely right, Scott. I mean, these workers are just spread across the country. Kansas City does have a relatively high percentage of federal workers, but L.A., Atlanta, Chicago, many others have more federal jobs.
Frank Morris with member station KCUR in Kansas City. Frank, thanks so much for being with us.
You bet, Scott.
The white supremacists say, we got them again. They don't know how to stay the course. They're always looking for a way not to look at me, And I'm always looking for a way for them not to look at me, because I'm the one pulling all the strings, Oh, yeah, black people are always trying to find a way around white supremacy. It ain't no way around it. And if I don't believe it, just go looking for a job.
That absolutely.
See, I've said for years, hey, one of the worst things that a black person can do is start lying to yourself about race. You got to deal with the white supremacists. That's painful, because it is painful dealing with them. I will admit to that, and that is true. And I can understand it. Yeah, try to find a way around it, because it's painful when you have to deal with them. Deal with anybody, but don't deal with them. Because, see, I mean, hey, the record shows we lose. And we don't know how. We don't know how. We haven't figured out a way out. And that's why we're always looking for an escape route. Well, I mean, it's the Chinese. That's why we're in this shape. Well, it's the Puerto Ricans. If it wasn't for them damn Puerto Ricans, black people would be on Easy Street. Well, that Mexican took my job. He ain't took your job. He was given the job. Given the job by who? The people who give out jobs. Well, who are they? Duh. Have you ever had a job? Who gave it to you? Right, Come on. Stop lying to yourself.
On his first day in office, President Trump paused the U.S. program to admit refugees. Organizations working to resettle refugees have also had to contend with slow grant funding and demands to stop work altogether. As NPR immigration policy reporter Jimena Bustillo finds, hundreds of employees have been furloughed or laid off. Now, organizations are grappling with how to help resettle more than 22,000 newly arrived refugees.
As soon as they arrive to the U.S., refugees are greeted by staff and volunteers dedicated to help them settle into their new homes.
We would pick the family up at the airport and provide them with a hot meal, some basic safety and cultural orientation on their first day here, like, what is the fire alarm going to sound like? What's the smell of gasoline in our ovens here? What to do in case of an emergency, 911.
That's Pam Keffey, CEO of Journey's End, a local resettlement group in Buffalo, New York. She first started doing refugee resettlement work in 1997.
And then we begin the process of providing at least 90 days of fairly intensive case management supports. And that includes helping people get linked with primary care, vaccinations for kids to go to school, and then, of course, registering for school.
The list of services is sprawling, but she says vital for the people who arrive to America with only few belongings after a lengthy vetting process by the federal government. But after the first week of President Trump's second term, a pause in funding from federal grants and the order to stop work halted her organization's care of 115 families.
Those were families that were currently under our care, who we are contracted to support, who we then were told we would not be reimbursed for services for those families.
Trump's pause of the refugee program, requests to freeze funding across federal agencies and for non-governmental organizations to stop work left refugee resettlement organizations across the country reeling. Several grants are given by the State Department, which issued a stop work order, and organizations are financially left on the hook. Resettlement organizations told NPR that there are millions of dollars in government funding on hold. That's forced local groups to front the costs. Catherine Rayberg is the vice president of programs at Church World Service, one of the 10 flagship resettlement nonprofits that work nationwide.
We don't think it's only the government's responsibility. It's a public-private partnership, but that public piece is a core part of it. And that's the piece that right now is really challenging our ability to operate and to continue to meet the needs of people who are already here.
The Trump administration is hoping to do an audit of all federal spending. It's not immediately clear if the funding freezes are directly tied to the administration's review of refugee programs, or they could be caused by technological errors or internal confusion. Laura Rice, who worked on immigration issues in the first Trump administration, said that non-governmental organizations are paid through several agencies, and that's one of the reasons this funding is paused.
It doesn't make sense to keep sending money out the door and try to analyze it all at the same time.
Still, resettlement organizations like Journey's End in Buffalo are uncertain how much longer they can hold out. Several organizations filed a lawsuit earlier this week against the leadership of federal agencies they say are responsible for leaving refugees abroad and stopping services. One plaintiff, who goes by the name of Ali and just arrived to the U.S., told reporters he's eating one meal a day and doesn't know if next month's rent will be paid due to paused services. Keffey from the local group in Buffalo said that she's hoping there's more support to come.
A lot of people think of refugee resettlement as charity for refugees, and certainly that's why I got into this work. But I've really grown to love the idea that my city that I grew up in is a welcoming city for those individuals.
Organizations are hoping to bolster their other avenues of funding while they wait for the final word on if their grants will be returned. Jimena Bustillo, NPR News, Washington.
President Trump has already moved swiftly to remake the federal government. His administration is inviting millions of federal workers to resign and is outright firing others. What is happening could have a significant impact on the lives of regular people, so some are speaking out. NPR's Andrea Hsu talked to one person who is not going quietly.
Jocelyn Samuels was actually President Trump's pick back in 2020 to fill a Democratic seat on the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. That's the independent agency created in 1964 to protect U.S. workers from discrimination. Samuels had heard chatter that Trump might try to remove commissioners before their terms were up, but
I was shocked that it happened to me.
Samuels calls herself a mainstream Democrat. She's done civil rights work in the government dating back to the 1990s. She says her policy views haven't changed, nor did she try to obscure them when she was interviewed by the first Trump administration. And yet last week she was told, "You're out." The reason?
My embrace of radical ideology and my position on DEI and the permissibility of it make me unfit to serve.
Which puzzled her, given Trump found her perfectly acceptable 5 years ago. And so her conclusion?
I think it is the perspectives of this administration that have changed.
And that scares her. The EEOC, she says, plays a critical role protecting the civil rights of tens of millions of people who go to work in America.
A role that individuals simply can't make up by hiring their own lawyers and filing their own lawsuits.
Every year, the EEOC investigates tens of thousands of discrimination claims. It facilitates mediation, even takes employers to court. It's an agency committed to protecting vulnerable workers. But now Samuels fears that could change.
I mean, I do think elections have consequences, and new administrations do have different priorities.
It's just this time what she's seeing is an effort to eviscerate the very nature of the agency's work, to bring EEOC policy in line with Trump's broader crackdown on diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. She worries that employers will now roll back decades of work addressing barriers to opportunity. They might stop recruiting from underrepresented communities. They might shut down mentoring opportunities.
Because the administration has offered no description of the kinds of initiatives that it is sweeping into the DEI rubric, employers may be chilled.
Now, the EEOC can't make big policy changes yet, but once Trump appoints a new commissioner, Samuels expects an upheaval. The EEOC currently has guidance that makes clear that trans people are protected from harassment on the basis of gender identity. The agency's Republican chair has repeatedly said that that guidance harms women and ignores, quote, biological reality. Samuels sees it differently. She says the guidance is needed to protect people who experience egregious treatment at work.
Whether it is through misgendering or asking invasive questions about employees' genitalia or calling people it.
After a career of fighting for other people, Samuels is now having to think about herself, whether she wants to challenge her firing in court.
I'm going to be thinking very hard about appropriate next steps.
The Supreme Court ruled 90 years ago that presidents don't have the power to fire commissioners of independent agencies. Samuels doesn't want to become the case that changes that. Andrea Hsu, NPR News, Washington.
Okay. See, this is what you mean by being supreme. They're not making this up. When they say I'm the greatest thing on this planet. Yes, sir.
Mr. Fuller, what should you do if you're in a setting? Say you're at work or someplace like that.
Yes, sir.
And the white supremacists and the white people want you to talk, but you don't want to talk.
Excellent answer. Excellent question. You're on the job and a white person wants you to talk and you don't want to talk. You ask them, what do you want me to talk about? See, just ask them. If a person approaches you and they want something, apparently the person wants you to talk. The person has assumed you don't want to talk because you're not talking. So you ask them, okay, Brian, what do you want me to talk about? Well, then you just say, why are we talking about it? See, that's a key word. That word why is very key. Brian, why do you want me to talk about that? You know. Brian, do you want to talk to me? Do you want to talk? So you ask him. Brian, do you want to talk to me? Put things in the form of a question, and just keep questioning. Just like he's questioning you, you question him. Brian, do you want to talk to me? Okay. Brian, what do you want to talk about to me? Okay. Brian, see, this is code. You know, after you practice this a little while, after you practice code for a little while, it's just like a breeze. It just comes like second nature, you know, because all you got to do is follow what? Logic. Say, oh, you want me to talk. I never noticed that you wanted me to talk. Well, what do you want me to talk about? You know? Well, why do you want me to talk? Where do you want me to talk? And after we talk, what is supposed to happen? You know? Just see, you're not being offensive. You're being cooperative. You have just a bunch of questions. So, you know, Brian, you know, I never knew that you walked around, you know, thinking about how much you would like for me to talk. And, you know, and if this is something you miss, well, I'm willing to talk. I can talk. I have been taught to talk, you know. And I am willing to talk, but you have to tell me what, you know. Brian, is it anything? No. Right. And then you can say, oh, yes, while we were talking, what about that raise? See? Yeah. What about that promotion? I'm ready to talk. You know? You know? Yeah. What about those short hours? You know? What about decreasing my workload? Because you all move two people out of here when you move me in. And then you put that line that I use right out of Casablanca, unless I've been misinformed. Remember Rick? You ever seen the movie Casablanca? It's a top movie from the old days, but it's got a lot of lessons in it. Yeah, Captain Renault asked him, said, Rick, why did you come to Casablanca? You know? And he said, I'd like to think that, did you, well, I don't know what you did, but you probably killed a man. You probably ran off with the councilman's wife. Or I'd like to think that maybe you even killed a man. I mean, that's the romantic in me. Say, why did you come to Casablanca? He said, I came for my health. He said, I came for the waters. Say, waters? What waters? We're in the desert. He said, I was misinformed. You know, yeah. One of those Raymond Chandler type, you know, type responses. But see, you just go with the flow. See, sometimes we get uptight around white people when all you have to do is just relax. See? Just relax and go with the flow. And pay strict attention to everything that they are saying. All right? And just go with it. Don't get obstinate and start saying, you know, well, I mean, you know. No. You want me to talk to you, Brian? Okay. Right. I'll talk. Right. What do you want to talk about, Brian? And why? And, you know, and what is it you want to know from me that you don't already know that's worth knowing? Okay? Yeah, and, you know, and then the next day, with your approach, once you do that kind of opening, I'm just saying this is hypothetical. I don't know if you get this kind of reaction or not. But chances are the next day, he will come in. He won't want you to talk. All right?
Much obliged. Follow logic. Neely Fuller Jr. Context of White Supremacy. Gus T in for another broadcast, hopefully to share constructive information on the system of white supremacy. Today's date, so-called Valentine's Day, Friday, February 14, 2025. So I have been told. That is Neely Fuller Jr. from like a quarter century ago. Cows didn't even exist. I thought it reminded me, he said, don't be obstinate when talking to white people, go with the flow, so-called metaphor. But ask questions. Ask questions. I say that all the time. Ask questions. I wholeheartedly endorse that recommendation. Just ask questions. Simple questions. But Mr. Fuller said, sometimes we get obstinate around white people. We get uptight and uncomfortable. And, what is Brian going? I said, wait a minute. Now, we just finished up, in fact, Dr. Maya Angelou's autobiography yesterday, The Heart of a Woman, and she said, I come from a people that wrote the book on the white man. And I said then, like, whoa, and this book, her book, was published before the code, Mr. Fuller's book, even existed. So, and she was talking about events in the 1960s, so way before Fuller time. So what book is she talking about? We wrote and she was talking in a workplace context, having to go, it was a school context. She was going to talk to someone on behalf of her child, but still, what? And I'm trying to reckon, because I said, I don't know, stay black and die. I'd heard that before. I come from a people that wrote the book on the white man. I had not heard that line before, and I'm glad. And that one, I see why I hadn't heard that line before, because I don't think that's true. The most familiar mystery. That's what Fuller say with regards to white people, and I think that is still true. 2025. But anyway, Neely Fuller Jr., Dr. Maya Angelou, just their different views, VGQ, and they are 1 year apart. Dr. Angelou born 1 year before Mr. Fuller. Wacky. Anyway, Neutralizing Workplace Racism, not for spectators, especially if you figured out any strategies that are helpful to non-white people, victims of racism, so they can get that raise, get that promotion, maybe not be in stress. I don't know if they're a federal employee, might not be. We move that to the side, maybe. We move that's something different. But at least for the folks that are private industry and such, help them get that raise, promotion, all the rest of it. Evade those false accusations, which are very common in the workplace. If you have any tips or strategies on how to deal with, manage problems with regards to those areas, please let us know immediately, because we need lots of help. The number 605-313-5164. The code 564943 pound. Press star 61 if you would like to participate. Number again, 605-313-5164. The code 564943 pound. Press star 61 if you would like to participate. Before we get to callers, folks who wrote in, the email untiljustice@gmail.com. untiljustice@gmail.com. If you do not want to be identified and all that concern, people might recognize your voice, drop us an email, same time every week, even if you hear the archives. If you have suggestions or if you have difficulties, let us know. We'll do our best to use counter-racist logic. untiljustice@gmail.com. Share the links. Let folks know that we are broadcasting live, especially if you know non-white people who have workplace problems. Share the broadcast. That's what we are here for, a resource for victims of white supremacy, non-white people, with regards to labor. You can even share the archives, have them dial in, share their situation. We will do our best. Any hoodles, I wanted to say quickly, because it is 2/14/205, my suggestion, hey, no holidays, right? Say that for the totality of this month, Black History Month so-called. Said that for New Year's Eve. Said that for Dr. Martin Luther King Day. Said that for Christmas Day, Halloween, Thanksgiving, Veterans Day. You can run it all the way back. Birthdays. No holidays means no holidays, including today. If you do not subscribe to the no holiday philosophy and you do celebrate Valentine's Day, my recommendation would be, do not send your attempted care mate, attempted wife, any goodies to their place of employment. Reason being, and this would be even if they work with exclusively people classified as black. Reason being, all eyes are already on you if you work with white people. If you are non-white, especially if you're classified as black. You get some big bouquet, or it could even be one tulip, one rose, one chocolate. Oh, man. Who does this nigga woman that, and especially if these are like some no-count, callous white women, their husband didn't hook them up or cheating on them, having an affair with somebody, or single, divorced, all the above, whatever, and they didn't get nothing. Oh, man. I talked about the vindictiveness of white chicks in the workplace before. Oh, man. Who does this nigga woman think she is? And oh, she done got and blah, blah, blah. The gossip. Ooh, ooh. All eyes are already on you. Man, we've had non-white people write and call in and talk about how under normal circumstances their colleagues and coworkers found out that they had a little romance thing with another coworker, and they started going around trying to sabotage their arrangement and lying and say, oh man, are you dating Johnny downstairs? Oh man, he asked everybody in the office to be in a threesome. Like, my goodness, are you sure you want to date him? And then get home and find out, you was in a threesome, and it was, whoa, what are you talking about? No, I didn't do no such a thing. And then find out all these people were lying on both of them, by the way, saying all this outrageous stuff. So, man, they see that bouquet or that box of chocolates, or it could just be a card, you know. And even the vindictiveness and such, even with other non-white people, same thing can happen. And let's do the Michelle Obama. We go high. Even if, wow, that is so sweet. Wow, you are so lucky. You have the swellest fella ever. Even if that is the response, that is not what we signed up for at all. Same thing Fuller just said. I'm trying to talk about getting a raise, a promotion. That's what I'm trying to talk about. Not how sweet my fella is and all that, because see that you're just nudging over to the bedroom activity, and I didn't come to talk about none of that, even with other non-white people. That's the position that I take now. I know a lot of people agree with that. You should. Counter-racist purposes, you should, because that way it's reciprocal, because I certainly did not sign up to hear nothing about your bedroom activities, talking about other coworkers, right? I think that should be universal amen for everybody, right? Okay. That's what I mean. You don't need all that extra attention, and certainly not on this, because it's just leading to Area 8. Like, no thanks. Keep all that. You can, if you really got to give flowers and all of that, you can do that once the person gets home. If you got to participate in all of that, that way the colleagues don't know nothing about it. And as far as they know, 214, you can, that way you can stick to it for every other so-called holiday. Hey, I do not celebrate nothing. Knowing you got a dozen long stem roses at home, chocolate colored strawberries, the whole nine. But as far as they know, hey, I don't celebrate no holiday, not even Negro History Month. You don't see no kente cloth celebrations in here. That's the way it should be every day in the workplace, in my view. VGQ. Quickly, the clips that we heard. The federal employees being classified as lazy. Elon Musk, President Trump. We are done with these lazy, loafing federal employees. Woo. Even that word, like, wow. And it reminded me, because even just with the post office, certainly there are lots more federal employees than just the post office, but that one specifically, there's audio Fuller from like decades ago where he was saying that for a certain segment of black people in certain cities, it was, hey, if things, go really bad and doesn't work out or whatever, if worse comes to worse, I can go get a job at the post office. Federal employment for decades. That has been a source of racist jokes. I think President Trump was upset about the post office during his first term and talking about they had a high level of debt and, we need to take get rid of this or privatize the post office and all this. Was like, this is ridiculous. There's been a large segment of individuals classified as white who've had lots of racist, displeasure with the U.S. Postal Service for many, many years, and you see some of that now. I think that might even be a part of this, but even beyond that, like, oh my goodness, Washington, D.C., certainly a city with a lot of black federal employees, and there would probably be a lot of other cities that have a lot of Atlanta, I think they said, another city I know that would have a lot of black, because they have CDC there too, lots of black federal employees. They have a Federal Reserve in Atlanta too, unless I'm mistaken. But oh yeah, I could see where it would be a lot of non-white employees and especially the way that they've talked about it, the confusion, because you heard the social worker and she said most of my clients right now are black people who need the most help, and the person that they go to get help, I might be in line with you all, my black brothers and sisters. Like, come on, man. And that word again, Fuller talked about it all the time, that C word, confusion. I pay attention to that. I started paying attention to that years ago. Any time where they start saying, uh-oh, we got a federal program, and this is White House administration, like they're really smart white people. This is not the toothless, ignorant, dumb white people off the street or whatever. These are white people who presumably they know, NASA, all that. You all know how to launch satellites, spaceships, bombs, missiles. You all do all kinds of amazing things all the time. You certainly can coordinate if you want. If you want to fire them, if you want to encourage people to resign, even if that's what it is, you want to encourage people to resign. That way we can so-called trim the fat, reduce the number of employees that we have. We think is too high. You could do that in a manner that is unambiguous, makes sense. They have attorneys and all of that, HR experts where they could do it. Make it simple. Get graphics, illustrations, all of that. It would be easy to grasp. They got folks in limbo. Do I have a job? Am I going to be back? Who knows? Hey, come on. Confusion. Generally speaking, in a system of white supremacy, when you have that sort of chaos, I'd say it's almost 10 times out of 9, and that's the way I meant to say it. The people who classified as non-white are always at a super duper duper disadvantage. You can see COVID-19 more recently, but anytime where you have lots of chaos like that, oh my God, what's going to happen? And because white people are in charge, they're the ones who get to come in and just, all right, boys and gals, we'll make a decision here. Let's see. This is what we're going to. Confusion is done. Let's see. The Jocelyn Samuels. Now, you all didn't have the visual. This was NPR, so this was audio. But I did go look, and they did have a graphic of Miss Samuels, and this is a woman who would be classified as white. Now, it caught my attention because they said they even know, President Trump picked Miss Samuels in 2020 when he was up for re-election. He picked her to take over the EEOC, where you go if you have gripe. Hey, they're practicing racism. Hey, there you go. Bay Area mom, you are misgendering me. I'm going to tell the folks at the school out in Oakland, like, hey, EEOC, let them know she is misgendering you. Anyway, but Miss Samuels, he nominated her to take over the EEOC. I picked her in 2020, but, things didn't work out correctly, as he said. So, we get around 5 years later, and now things have changed so much. Beat it. Your services are no longer needed. You are too radical. That word right there, I put that radical, militant, it's a number. Now, they are talking about a white person, but in my view, name calling. If the person didn't say, I am a radical, that is name calling. I might even put liberal up there too, but we'll deal with that later. But what is a radical? Because most of the time it's being used to delegitimize, devalue whatever the person is doing. Or oh, this is one of them radicals. Oh, watch back now. Watch back. could be dangerous. I don't know. Lots of times they apply this to black people. They'll even call Dr. King, he's radical. Ooh. Watch that turn out. They put this on a white woman, so, radical white woman get on out of here. I'm sure she is still classified as white, suspected race soldier, so I'm sure that Jocelyn Samuels will be fine. And then she wasn't talking about racism, white supremacy. She was talking about misgendering, whatever that means. And she had the thing about, she said, identifying people asking invasive questions about people's genitalia. What? Or calling people by genitalia. Like, what? They should already have rules against all of that. I mean, what? See, now that, again, that's why we don't need no flowers or chocolates in the workplace. If you got people asking invasive questions about genitalia, we don't need nothing that is heading towards Area 8. We want to stay very focused on labor. And I've said that for years, too. Once it deviates from labor, and a lot of times it can even stay there, and you still get something that's inappropriate. But once it drifts off, you can be talking about chicken or anything, and we end up with, hey, now how big is that? We're done, Brian. We're done. Let's do it. Am I going to get that raise or not? You going to think I'm going to get that promotion? You don't think I'm going to get that promotion? Anyway, I'm sure Jocelyn Samuels will, what they say, land on her white feet. Journeys End in Buffalo. Now, that was where they were talking about, again, all the confusion. Funding for these programs and such. Is it going to be cut off? New administration. And this is for so-called immigrants. I looked. These are not so-called Latinos, or I guess, beg pardon, maybe they are, I don't know. But these are not the faces that you would normally associate with so-called Latinas. I had to take that back because if you said, well, do any of them look like Lupita Nyong'o, who was born in Mexico, so-called Latina, right? I would have to say yes, some of them do look like Lupita Nyong'o. Maybe they are from Mexico. I don't know. But these folks are very dark. Many of the people that they have on the website for Journeys End in Buffalo. I did not know about them when I went to Buffalo. Maybe I would have went to check all this out in person. But it looks like lots of really melanated young people that they are supposed to be working with and helping. And I guess these are not American descendants of slavery. If that means anything, maybe we should boot them out and call them names. Tethers, get out of here. And all the rest of that. But they're dark people. And once again, confusion. Are we going to have a program? Is it going to be able to continue? Oh, my goodness. What do we do? That's the sort of position where you have the people who need the most help, especially dark people, struggling, chaos. Who knows what tomorrow will bring? Will we have food? Job? Wait and see. Let's see. Make sure. I guess I'll pause there for the moment. Again, if we have other federal employees, let us know if that's taking place. The portion with Fuller, again, questions. I love it. We've heard that before, too, where many folks, and that, like I said, that's like a quarter century ago. And Mr. Fuller is being asked, what do you do? They want you to talk on the job. Brian, fuss at you being quiet and all that. Don't we hear that like every, other month? We've heard that for years. Yeah, we were hearing that. We didn't even have workplace racism as like a program to address here at the Cows, and non-white people were calling in and talking about that. That's another one. White people are not ignorant about racism because they are nosy as can be about their niggras in the workplace. That's why, come on over here and talk to me. Let's go on out to lunch. Why you don't want to go to lunch with me? Let's go to happy hour. We can go get chocolate-covered strawberries together. What is the problem? That sort of thing. They got to keep tabs on their niggras. Mr. Fuller's anecdote right there. What is it that you want to talk about? We certainly not going to talk about genitalia now, Brian. What do you want to talk about? You sure we can talk about that promotion? See, that's what let's get back to business. That's what we hit. No, I don't want to talk about the Super Bowl, man. I don't care. I don't want to commiserate about no Pat Holmes. I don't want to celebrate no Jalen Hurts, man. Promotion, man. Raise. At least you think we can get a few extra days where I can work from home? What you think? That's what, like, all of that should take precedence, man. Not no foolish. Man, what y'all gonna do for Valentine Day? Talking about nonsense. Like, come on, man. Exactly what he said. We've even had non-white people. They called in and said they had workers who wanted to come in and talk about nonsense, and all they did was ask questions. Oh, you went to University of Washington? Didn't Ted Bundy go there? Keep an eye on that boy. Asked me about some Ted Bundy. Who is this niggra? And they didn't want to come up and do no small talk no more. Brilliant. And he didn't have to call them no names, curse them out. Whitey, get out. None of that. Just calm. As Mr. Fuller said, there you go. Go with the flow. And just ask a few questions. And now we ain't got to talk no more. Business. And then if they do want to come out, how about that raise again? You think you can help out with that promotion? Any hoodles, the number 605-313-5164. The code 564943 pound. Press star 61 if you would like to participate. The email untiljustice@gmail.com. Let's see, the folks who are dialing in, you all can let me know. Folks who dial in, write in. I am contemplating swapping back Neutralizing Workplace Racism and the Catherine Massey Book Club. Originally, the book club was on Friday. Neutralizing Workplace Racism was on Thursday. There was a thought that perhaps if Neutralizing Workplace Racism was on Friday, non-white people who are overseas might be more apt to call in because it's on the weekend, and so they might be able to stay up later to be able to call in, maybe at the late hour that this program is on for people that are in Europe, Australia, that sort of thing. We still don't really have live time, frequent participation from non-white people in other parts of the world. Now, they do call in for Neutralizing Workplace Racism specifically from time to time, but it's not regular enough to warrant the switch. We gave it a good run. I personally would prefer to have it back the way it was for lots of personal reasons, to have the book club back on Friday at this time and Neutralizing Workplace Racism on Thursday at this time. But I am receptive to folks. Maybe folks even remember. Yes, I do remember. This used to be on Thursday and the book club was on Friday. If it really is a big to-do, we can keep it as is, but my druthers would be to put it back to the way it was. So you can give input on that as well. You can even write in if you don't want to call in. You can write in untiljustice@gmail.com and just, doesn't make a big deal, or it does make a big deal and it needs to remain as it is for whatever reason. You can let me know. That would have an impact. Much obliged. Let's see. Folks who dialed in with a hand up, if you have commentary to share, proceed.
Greetings to Gus, the host, listeners, and callers. Can I be heard?
Greetings, young academic.
I would suggest to do what works best for you. I'm always in the archives. Archives are very beneficial to me. But to my workplace racism story, I'm in some need of advice. My mental health is suffering. I didn't realize this until weeks ago when I was at my local Trader Joe's and I was about to check out, and I saw the white woman teacher that is the reason why I'm not a teacher now. I noticed her before she noticed me, and even though I had a full cart and I was about to check out, I had to leave. My breathing gets uneasy, and I go into a blind rage, and it takes everything in me not to laugh and cry at the same time. It is a mixture of emotions that hit me so hard, I have to leave the store, and I find myself behind the steering wheel, clutching it and controlling my breathing. It takes me up to 15 minutes just to calm my emotions so I can drive home. I'm embarrassed and ashamed of even mentioning it now because I have no control over this. I just have to get away from the area wherever this lady is at because I am terrified of white women, especially her. Today, while completing errands, it was confirmed that I don't have it all together. While shopping, I ran into a gorgeous black teacher who was teaching in another classroom during my student practicum placement. She was there to witness my weight loss and my mental anguish. She was very worried about me and would express concern. So when she ran into me today in the grocery store, she decided to fill me in on what happened at the school in my absence. The teacher that failed me because I would not take another white woman out on a date has moved to a majority white school district just down the road. After she failed me, she went on to pass another white woman teacher. Instead of that teacher's placement taking a year, it only took her 3 months when it took me a year. She passed her practicum placement with flying colors and was able to start teaching at full salary the following school year. However, she did not last a year, and she was fired from the school that I have been underpaid and overworked at for 3 years. All of the white women teachers who I used to teach with are no longer teachers. I was told this by the black woman that the white teacher is a known racist and that I should have taken her to court. I'm still teaching as a long-term sub to silence me so I'm not an effective instructor with no impact. I am placed with nonverbal students. I'm okay. I go to the gym. But when I hear updates like this, it sends me into a blind rage, and I find myself in my car, clutching my steering wheel, trying to control my breathing, almost like a panic attack. I don't want to feel like this. And I want it to stop. I don't have the money for a therapist. What should I do? Any suggestions?
Wow. Much obliged for sharing, young academic. First and foremost, do not feel embarrassed. There are like literally white people have whole stacks of paper and have taken up, I was going to say gigabytes, but at this point it's probably terabytes, literally, because we had Dr. Travis Nichols as a guest on the program a decade ago talking about all the details as to why they do not have people like you, privileged black male, in the classroom. And the problem has not improved. Dare I say it has gotten worse over that 10-year span. So there are legions. And remember, he had called in, he told us about, man, they keep failing us on the test. And remember, Fuller talked about that too. He's like, man, sometimes you start catching up and then they go back and change the test. That's not, I'm sorry to be snickering, but and that's another one. They got terabytes of reports about that too. Like, man, we got whole generations of Leroys who didn't pass the test to go and be able to teach. And I wonder why. And hold that. White woman, she got through in 3 months, supposed to take a year, and then fired. Leroy can't pass the test, taking it 6 times, paid all that money. White woman, 3 months, program's supposed to take a year, and then she's fired. That is enough to drive you loony. But for sure, do not feel embarrassed, because it's a whole generation. It's literally probably maybe even more than that. But for reals, a whole generation of black dudes like yourself who have had the exact same experience. And even matter of fact, we had a black male, I have to go back to get his name. It was the day after so-called Christmas, because we don't take holidays. He was a guest on the program on December 26th, 2022. He told us, he wrote his dissertation on the lack of black male teachers. He left out half of the black male teachers that he talked to had been sexually propositioned, sexually abused, something like that. He says, seems like, what's that metaphor? Things went off the track. I wouldn't take that white woman out. Come on, man. Come on, man. And then that too. That's not no one thing. He said it was half of the black male teachers that he talked to. Oh, yeah, brother, that happened to me too. And that didn't even go in the dissertation. That's what we talked about on the program. I thought that was so important that didn't even go in the dissertation. Anyway, don't feel embarrassed. Do not feel embarrassed. If anything, much obliged. Massive commendations for having the courage to dial in, because it can feel really embarrassing. A lot of times we get conditioned to internalize, like, I did something wrong. I'm defective. It's something what President Trump, lazy. I was lazy. I was shiftless. I didn't study hard enough for those exams. I wasn't serious about being a scholar to mold these young people's mind and all that. Meanwhile, the white woman, 3 months, program's supposed to take 12, 3 months, and then she gets fired. They won't tell you about meritocracy, see? And we believe that. Even myself, Mr. Fuller said, I believe this too. Anywho, so definitely do not feel embarrassed. Easier said than done, but I mean, man, no guilt should be had there at all. Now, the rage, I will, since I'm being truthful, the rage, that is totally valid, justified. David Alan Grier's father wrote a book called Black Rage for that exact reason. That is totally justified. I will not say, you shouldn't feel that way about that. You should not feel embarrassed. The rage, I get it, and that is something to be enraged about. That entire, and look at how the children got, because he was teaching black children. That was sad too, but look at how the children got shortchanged and all of that. He talked about he would bring food in for them and everything. That's against the rules, whatever. He would bring food in for them and all of that. Be concerned about them, trying to do the best that he can, and you get a white woman. And then she gets fired. Like, come on. They got to get a substitute and all that. Like, I'm sure, like, oh, wow, they did wonders after all that happened. Wondering what she got fired for. Anyway, he did say that he did not have the funding for a therapist, because I was thinking of Dr. Welsing and therapy for sure. And even sometimes they'll have programs depending man, can't say enough, depending on where you are geographically. Sometimes they will have therapy options, limited though they may be, that are available even if you have very limited funds. Sometimes they might even be free for like one session or a limited number of sessions. It depends on where you are geographically. And that might be something, folks, maybe if you can email, you can let us know where you are geographically. And some listeners, we might be able to covertly see if we can help sleuth and see if they have free options or reduced fee options where you are to get mental health services, because I think that certainly would be warranted. And I know Dr. Welsing would say that can be very beneficial. I would also, I think, bravo on taking time to breathe. What is better than breathing? And especially if, when you have moments that are triggering, hearing about all of this that is that's like triggering on lots of levels, because like he seemed like someone who genuinely cared about these children, many of them classified as black, and this is what they've been left, like, you boot me out for this? Man, like, yes, because that could have easily been a traffic accident or what have you. Yes, take time. If you have to take 15 minutes, 30 minutes, you can go. Trader Joe's has a very liberal exchange policy. So if maybe you got some frozen vegan ice cream or some frozen vegan sushi, if you have to sit in the car for 30 minutes, you can easily take it back inside and swap out, make sure everything is good to go, and then go about your business. But you can take 30 minutes before, life is more valuable than 30 minutes. Your life, more valuable than 30 minutes. So take 30 minutes, do some breathing. Maybe if you have audio, you can listen to Dr. Welsing, Mr. Fuller, something soothing music, help calm down. You can journal a little bit, great writer that you are. Lots of different things, but just taking time and breathing. And drink some water. I know that drinking water is very helpful to lower your blood pressure. Like doctors, I've been told, I am not a doctor, but I have been told that doctors do recommend, I feel all right with this recommendation, that they do recommend drinking water lowers your blood pressure. So drink some water. They have water at Trader Joe's, so you can drink some water, sit, breathe. And I would say in the future, feel free. Sometimes if you have been heavily victimized, heavily traumatized with a specific incident, you might need time to heal. And time is, a relative thing. That might be 5 years, 10 years, whatever, before you can kind of move forward to at least processing things. You can talk about it. You can hear updates and all of that. Feel free. You might have to tell people, I'm still processing from all of that. So at this time, I just can't talk about any of that. I don't want to hear any updates about all that. No, discourtesy or anything of that nature. But, that was a rough transition for me. And so I'm still trying to work through all of that. And I think especially most black people, they would give you a hug. My black brother, I can understand. I will zip it. You let me know if you ever want to get updates. I will be happy to share. If not, that is totally fine. We can have some sweet potato pie and sit quietly. Woo! Hug to my black brother. I can understand. I think that would be the response that most people, certainly if they have rapport with you at all, that would be the overwhelming response. Like, I get it. Psh, zip it. No, and he said this woman that they booted him out for is a known racist. Now, that staggered me because, whoa. Other than Donald Trump and like 3 or 8 Klansmen and maybe a few Afrikaners in Johannesburg, I never hear a white person branded as, oh yeah, now that is a known like, whoa. Like, what, how did this information become known? What? That is absolutely, but again, now, once you got to that point, just, they don't even want to talk about it. That just makes it even worse. But wow, that is staggering. I would write that down, though. If I was on a job and there was anybody who was identified now, Bill down the hall is a known racist. Fuller talked about that. Write that down. Why do you say Bill is a known racist? Oh, you didn't know Bill was a racist? Man, whatever they say, racist jokes, start writing it down. Anyway, known racist. I'm not surprised. A racist woman in Women's History coming up next month. That right there is white women's gleaming history, the damage that they have wrought in the education system for at least a good century or so. You could spend the whole month of March on that. Racist woman, racist man, and racist child. My recommendation would be therapy, see if we can get some of that. And just accepting that you need more time in terms of healing from that. And might even be a lot of things. I think you had done some writing about that before, maybe even doing some more writing about that. See if we can find a black therapist in the region that you can go and talk to about all of this. And then, making sure that, you are not getting additional updates, at least at this point, while you're still really sensitive to all of the abuse that you have suffered directly. But those would be some of my suggestions. Like, wow. And that's because that impacts your livelihood and things that you're really passionate about doing for all of this. Like, that is something to be really upset. That is not something to be embarrassed about. That is something to be very upset about. I would say writing too. I'm a big advocate of writing. I think that would be important too, maybe, because that It might take some time, but at some point, that might be a cathartic way to heal from all of this. Just make it a book, to be that passionate about wanting to teach. And after all this, to still be teaching. She was getting the whole white woman's salary, and now he's in there earning probably a fifth or a tenth of that. What they got, 3/5? Sorry, but he's earning like a tenth of that. And he had told us about that before, because they can keep him as a substitute while she's a full-fledged white woman, and then they'll have the audacity to come out and go, well, it's patriarchal system, and these old black males privileged, they make much more coin than everybody. What? Leroy? Young academic? Al Sharpton? What? Anyway, we'll see if other folks, if they have other suggestions other than, man, I think it is so important that you recognized the damage that this has done to your mental health and well-being, and even, the additional triggers, just hearing about all of this, which are totally legitimate. I'd say let's see if we can find therapy that is free or super-duper reduced cost that you could actually afford in your area, because they will have that sort of service available. And black therapists, too. Black, culturally competent, as they say, therapist who's willing to talk about racism, white supremacy, and cost-effective in your region. Let's see if we can sleuth to find that, and then we'll see if other folks have any other suggestions to add. You can drop an email to untiljustice@gmail.com, untiljustice@gmail.com, and let us know if you all have suggestions or therapy ideas. That would be great. Let's see if other folks who are with us, if you have your own thoughts and suggestions, that would be awesome for young academic. Let's see. Victim should be with us as well. Did you have any suggestions for young academic, and certainly your own situation as well? You should be with us also, sir.
Yes, sir. May I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Thank you for taking my call, Gus. Greetings to the COWS listeners and callers. I would like to also extend my sincerest empathy towards the caller for dealing with this type of terrorism. I can definitely understand the anger that comes from not knowing or not feeling confident and comfortable in all surroundings. I guess that's just the result of being victimized in this system. A couple thoughts did come to mind about what could possibly help minimize the stress. If it's possible, maybe a leave of absence for a portion of time from all of it, from the subject of teaching and the children and everything else, just to take some time out to, self-care and do things only for you that build you up. Another thought came to mind that maybe some kind of other outlet. I know I heard it was working out was one outlet, and writing is another outlet, and writing a book would be great. But there's other mediums, maybe painting, something that can, help calm the stress and alleviate the stress. Those are, at least right now, those are the couple of thoughts that came to mind. I heard you play a clip from Mr. Fuller. Again, I would also like to say thank you, Mr. Fuller, for all of his effort. He will definitely be missed. And he said something about conversations on the job, and that's funny because that happened to me today, considering that today is quote-unquote Valentine's Day. I was asked by other coworkers, oh, so what are you doing, for your tempted spouse today? And I responded like, you know what? I have no clue. How about you tell me what you're going to do, and maybe I'll give you some ideas. And from that point on, I just kept asking more questions about what they were doing, and needless to say, we never got to me. But that's, I could definitely understand, and I appreciate Mr. Fuller and how he didn't get mad. he didn't even reveal information about himself when it came to the questioning. So that's right there. I definitely appreciate all of his work and effort. Also today, on this particular day, certain coworkers came in dressed up, which I didn't know was a thing for this type of day. So they came in with all types of red and pink and stuff like that on. And one person wore a red beret. I'm not sure what that represents, but they wore that today in the office. Female, non-white female. Non-white, non-black female. I also noticed with a couple of my coworkers, going to me and more of my work, some of my coworkers, the coworker that I started with, and we have the same amount of experience when it comes to doing the task now. I noticed that on the case list, I have more cases than her, even though we started at the same time. Oh yeah, and this is the same person that was crying in the office that couldn't get it. They gave her a reduced caseload, so she has 27. I have 35 cases for accumulating. So I thought that was interesting. Your question about moving the days from for workplace racism and the book club. I remember when the book club was on Fridays. I think if it would be less of a stress on you, Gus, to facilitate the book club on Fridays, I think that would be constructive. I did have something else I wanted to say, but it kind of slips my mind at the time. I am driving. It does take me an hour to get from my plantation to home, so I'm still driving to get there. So I will mute my line for now, but if I do remember what I want to say, I will definitely say it. But I want to say thanks for taking my call, Gus, and I'll mute my line.
Follow the logic for sure. Robust gratitude to Mr. Fuller. See there? They get up all in your business. Ooh wee, brother, what you gonna do for Valentine's Day? Ooh wee, y'all gonna go out and get some chocolate and ooh, do some role play. What? Come on, man, like that. And see that right there, Fuller, the compensatory conversation control. I'm not sure. Maybe you can give me some ideas. What are you going to do? And we just stay talking about you and even better yet, we can get back to the workplace. You gonna get that promotion? You help me get that raise, maybe? Oh, okay. Just trying to see. Then we can really do it up for the Valentine's celebration. We can get some Godiva chocolates, the good stuff. Anyway, that commute, that right there, massive part of the system of white supremacy said an hour. That right there would, make you lose your train of thought. Jesus Christ. I hope the weather is not inclement. No snow to battle or, whatever else, or traffic or, Dodgers make the World Series if you're in LA and you have to battle Carmageddon. I mean, that right there, part of the system. Even when white people relocate and say they want to come back to the city, a part of it is that right there. I do not want to do the commute out to the suburbs away from the niggras. We would rather swap. We can live in the city and walk to work or bike to work or whatever else we like and not have that commute, be home in a dash, go to happy hour and do it up, that sort of thing. Any hoodles. Great recommendations for young academic as well in terms of self-care and painting, even taking a sabbatical. I think that's a great option as well once you recognize that my mental health has really been impacted by all of this racist abuse, and then even hearing about how it's continued. I need some time for self-care and just maybe even to do nothing. I can just really focus on valuing myself, resting well, eating well, because he had said that the black female teacher, educator. She said that she had saw like the impact that all this was having on him, and he wasn't eating well and losing weight. Like, hey, I will maximize, just focus on eating right, sleeping correctly. You know, I can do some cleaning, and that can even be, I'll do some self-grooming, you know, really do it up for myself, you know, take care of my toes and all that. Just do a really good session of self-care for all of the abuse and everything that happens with it, because it's so common, where Pam talked about that too, where in the workplace we end up blaming ourselves. We get mad at ourselves. We're so upset about this and frustrated about all this. We ended up taking it out on ourselves. Either we eat too much, we don't eat enough. Sometimes we don't engage in self-care, may stop brushing our teeth, or lots of things. Just, man, can be really, really self-destructive. So vegging out in front of the television, I would say that counts too. It can often go with the eating too much or not eating enough. So definitely a big advocate of getting outside. Like, we're kind of heading towards spring, right? The clocks are about to be set forward, spring forward, right? So if you can get outside, get some sunshine, bike, hike, you can do yoga outside, just walking outside, even that. Like if you live near a park, trail, water, go out, do some walking. You can think, you can meditate, sit, do some writing out, you know, on the trail or what have you. But anything I'd say that breaks up that monotony of just, you know, vegging out in front of the screen, watching YouTube videos, Netflix, TV, whatever, for hours on end, that is generally not healthy unless I've been greatly misinformed. Get up, move around, and I'd even say watch your sugar intake, because I know we talked about that before with regards to depression, and once you're having, any non-white person is having any sort of mental health issues, you really want to watch the amount of white processed sugar, because that we can be encouraged. Oh, you're feeling bad, let's go get some Ben & Jerry's, let's get some Haagen-Dazs, you know, whatever your treat is, fill that in, and that can be the worst, because then you go the other way where you know, are gaining weight and eating really bad food that's not nutritious at all, can be bad for your teeth and just cause a lot more problems, and we still have not addressed the main problem. And like I said, that white sugar, that can even exacerbate the depression. So if you are feeling down, definitely, as self-care, that is eating correctly. I'm not going to gorge out on a whole lot of white sugar and foolishness. Eat healthy foods, take care of myself, drink some water, drink a lot of water, get outside, get some sunshine, and see if we can get that therapist, using that time off to just really value and love on self as best you can. Let's see. Much obliged. Victim. Let's see. Other folks who dialed in, if you have suggestions for young academic abused privileged black male educator who's talking about how this has impacted his mental health, hearing how this known racist has betrayed these children, who I think a lot of them were black children too. Like, there's so many layers of, you know, white woman racism. And oh, wait a minute, let me get one more. My apologies. Victim cubed. He said that the white woman suspected race soldier on his job has a lighter caseload in terms of volume of cases. I think he said he had like 35. She has like 27. He said, we got what is one of the most lethal things in the known universe. Weeping white woman. Black brother wrote Gus T, said, you tell them she got lacrimose on them in the workplace. Yes, no one. Well, white men, we have had some white men cut up in the workplace with that too. Come on. You real talk, black brother. You are lucky that after she got the weeping and snotting and all the rest of, you lucky they didn't drop her caseload down to like 15. Real talk. You could have been at 45 and she could have had 15. I mean, that's a weeping white woman. They don't say that's an incompetent white. Maybe this is a white woman who shouldn't have been hired. What's the tacky? Maybe this is a white woman who's not up to snuff. Nah. Weeping white woman, we got to empathize with Rhonda. It's all right. We'll let that nigger do a little extra. Like I said, really, you should be thankful because it really could have been she got 15 cases and you got 45. And you better get it done quickly, correctly. That's another one. Like young academic, racist white man is whole generations weeping, unqualified, no count white. That's why I said I don't get on that ignorant white people, because I mean, real talk. Oh my God, an ignorant white person might just mean we're going to have way more work to do. Ain't no advantage for the black. Thus far, I've seen no advantage to, an ignorant white person, we going to really get over that. No. Exact opposite. 27 cases. Man. We got piles of that, though, in the archives and lots of it. I would document. That's when I would get to documenting as well. Like, what is going on here? And at the minimum, y'all could hire competent white people, yes? Unless this is some old nepotism. Whatever, this is somebody's niece, daughter-in-law, sister is in HR, whatever the case may be, that sort of thing. It is a lot of, nah. Any hoodles, much obliged. Victim. Other folks who dialed in, if you had suggestions, recommendations for young academic or your own workplace situation, proceed. Let's see.
Can I be heard?
Nick over the road. Yes, sir.
Greetings, sir. Greetings. Young academic. Man, when I heard you saying that, I kind of had a flashback. I can completely relate with what you're saying. Well, even today as an adult, I abide by those two rules that my parents taught me. Do not talk to strangers, and do not touch anything that does not belong to you. No contact, no conflict. That's what I do. Unless I have to speak, I make sure that when I'm at work, I speak according to the job description, the duties and responsibilities, and the employee handbook. Anything outside of that, I don't have a conversation about it. When Gus has his guests, one of the questions that I hear asked to the white guests is, do they think that racist white supremacists will ever voluntarily stop subjugating or dominating non-white people? I've heard all of them say no. Well, all the ones I've heard said no, they will not volunteer. I say that because sometimes we'll get into this mindset where we think we may be living in la-la land, or a utopia, where everything is, I'm about to say fair, but justice has been established. And sometimes when we are outside the safety of our home, we think that justice may be applying. But what I found out just from them saying no to that question, I pretty much suspect that every last one of them that look at me will possibly do something. That's how I look at it. And this thing, like with Dr. DeGroy, I think, the one that's, I think, studied under Dr. Francis, she has this thing about PTSD and when it comes to us still suffering from what happened in slavery. I think that's a little bit inaccurate. And I say that because it's happened in the past, it's happening today, and it's expected to happen in the future because justice has not been established. That P in PTSD is post. And from what I've learned about it is that that's when you've gone through something and you don't expect it to happen again. However, you are still suffering in some way from the experience. And I think this is how some psychiatrists or therapists may approach that. But considering that it's still happening today and it's expecting to happen to us in the future, I think that's an inaccurate approach when it comes to non-white black people. I think that we need an approach to where it's happened in the past, it's happening today, and it's expected to happen in the future, and address our concerns from there. And I call that CTSD, chronic traumatic stress disorder. This may be the first time you've ever heard of anything like this. Now, they have one that's called something critical or something like that about stuff happening in childhood. But CTSD is what I call this. And I've scoured the internet and I have not seen anything where someone is approaching it as it's happening in the past, it's happening now, and it's happening in the future. However, like these emotions, we're not going to be able to get rid of them. I think emotions is just part of our life. But one thing that I've decided to do is that I needed a process so I don't sit in them for a very long time. So I had to come up with a process to where I could like recognize them, and then have a process where I could speak myself out of it or get myself out of it, you know, and then get back to what I'm doing. But by all means, what we feeling is completely normal as far as I'm concerned. And in regards, and I call that self-control. And that process for me, dominating my emotions and getting back to what I'm doing is what I call that self-care regimen. This is what we do to get self-control, and whatever we do to accomplish that, I think we need to keep up with that so that we can continue to have self-control. One of the things I had to do, and it was very difficult, was teach myself how to shut up. Because I found myself that I would say things and they would use it against me. So I had to teach myself specifically how to shut up. And it is a difficult task to do, and you will gain some self-control by teaching yourself how to shut up. I literally got a notepad and a pen, and I think I've said this on here before, and I write down all of my answers. I control my speech, I control my face, and I also have to control my body language. The only three exceptions that I have to this is children who can't read, emergencies, and conducting my business like work so I can maintain my quality of life. Anytime outside of that, I don't say a word to anyone. I will whip out my notebook and write my answer in complete sentences. That my body cam is very telling. Get a voice. Okay, I'm saying get a voice recorder. Specifically one for voice recording, like a Panasonic or Sony, and keep that in your pocket. I say turn it on before you leave home to start your day, and do not turn it off until you get home, because you want to get the whole conversation. Not, you don't want to miss the beginning. Because me personally, I am not a very good storyteller. That's why that's why I bought my body cam and I wear it in the center of my chest where everybody can see it. Because what I learned is that when they look at me, I can see their wheels spinning in their head. Like, a niggra, what am I going to do to him? But when I see their eyes gaze down to my chest, I see a big old smile come across their face. Hello, sir. How can I help you, sir? Is this all you is this all you need, sir? Would you like a bag, sir? They get completely polite when they look at this body camera. And it has I want them to see it has a red light that flash that lets you know, yeah, it's recording. In regards to how we eat, I don't know if you're familiar with this, Gus, but there's an app called Yuka, Y-U-K-A. It has like a little carrot as an emblem, and you can scan the barcodes of foods and some products and it will let you know if it's healthy or not. It will list the chemicals and the ingredients, and it has like a green, yellow, red, little indicator system for you to let you know if some products maybe have like a lot of sugar or some unhealthy chemicals. It's YUKA, and I use it at the grocery store every time I go. I walk around, scan the barcodes. Hopefully that helped, because that's what I do. And let me tell you something, my self-care regimen, it took me almost 5 years to fine-tune for me. Your self-care regimen is going to be for you due to your experiences and your knowledge that you have. And I think every one of us need one. And with that, thank you for letting me speak. Gus, I'll mute myself. I yield the floor.
Much obliged, Nick over the road. I had a quick question. I feel my PSA always make sure to remind folks to make sure you check the recording laws in your particular state, because they do vary by jurisdiction tremendously depending on where you are. So check the laws where you are for your recorders. But that notwithstanding, when you said no contact, no conflict, was that with regards to the black female that he used to work with who came to give him like the update that he said was triggering, or was that with regards to the white people that he worked? Just trying to clarify with regards to whom was that applied.
If you familiar with someone, I say you have a discussion with them according to your relationship that you have. But the no talking to strangers, no contact, no conflict is general rule for everyone, as far as I'm concerned. Because let me tell you, one thing that I learned, Gus, is that even when black people look at my body camera, they give an expression of like, what the, like it throws them for a loop. And I don't know what will result from that, So I just have a general rule. Do not talk to strangers. Don't touch anything that don't belong to me. And, just to have no conflict. That answer your question?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I just know for me personally, if I did see some with a body camera on them, if I didn't know them personally, I might think, is this law enforcement? Like, because that's who I'm accustomed to seeing with a body camera. Like, are they undercover? Are they out of uniform? Are they off duty? And they still got some of their, enforcement accoutrement on their person? Like I might be thinking that, like, let me assess, see if this, what's up with this fella, and then it's a black person too. We got to leave.
Let me tell you something, Gus. A couple days ago, I was in Target, and I'm walking through with the Yuka app doing my shopping, and a non-white black male had on the safety vest. I think he might have worked. I don't know. No, he didn't work there. But he walked past. I seen him. He walked past, and then he kind of took a couple of steps back and said, "Hey, I like that camera." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, you could get one off of Amazon." And my general statement is, when they ask me why, I say this is for training and quality assurance purposes, But he turned, it was like, I have one too, and he has like a little clip-on one that he had on his safety vest, and I was like, oh, that's good work right there, And we had a little conversation about body cams and whatnot, but yeah, I think it's all about the conversation that you want to have. But I generally don't talk to non-black people at all. I don't really have anything to say to them if it doesn't have to do with work or some kind of an emergency.
Gotcha.
I yield.
Much obliged, Nick over the road. Let's see. The number again, 605-313-5164. The code 564943 pound. Press star 61 if you would like to participate. Self-care, super important in the system of white supremacy racism. For sure. Let's see. the retired firefighter in Florida should be with us as well. If you had suggestions for young academic or other, based on what we've heard, recommendations with regards to the workplace, proceed.
Greetings, everyone. Mainly, I would like to give some advice for young academic. I believe he was with me at the that we had in Florida, and I learned a lot from his commentary from a person that is probably young enough to be an offspring, and how do they think and how they activate on a 24-hour basis the healthy food that we ate, and the whole thing was very constructive. I would first of all, I would try to get in contact with that lady that was bold enough to go to him and mention about what she noticed about him. I think I heard that earlier, that he was losing weight or something like that. She probably has some answers. She probably has some answers to that. And if she notices, if a person notices something in you, whether it's constructive or not constructive, that they may have went through the experience themselves or know someone else that went through the experience themselves and may have helped other people. And, it's like Mr. Fuller suggests, ask questions, and you can come up with some answers. There's a lot of people who don't have the funding for a lot of things, and they get things done. The way they get things done is by asking questions. That sort of thing. It can be very important. You'd be surprised on answers that you would get. I would get a log book if you already don't have one. I guess it could come under the title of diary and whatnot, to record things down that you want to do to self-improve. As far as that's concerned, you can start a regiment. I also want to just speak briefly on anxiety. Anxiety comes from the trauma that you have been through, and to be able to control that, you have to go into a space to whereas you are being calm, getting in a space where you can calm yourself down, that sort of thing. And because it's probably more mental than physical, you could obtain insurance to be able to supply yourself with the medical and mental health. You just have to ask questions. Just like I think Gus mentioned earlier, just about everywhere where you're at, that it may be different. It may be a different set of centers, as far as where that's available. But I would be surprised if it's not an area that's within walking or busing or whatever, if you have a vehicle distance, to be able to get to that particular place. I'm talking about specifically some sort of mental help situations that are either free or they would adjust to your income. While I had plenty of time before Gus got to me, and I was just flicking on this phone that I have in my hand, and there were plenty of them that came up on my phone right here in South Florida. So I'm thinking that it's something similar to that, because that became quite popular over the last 2 or 3 decades. Black females in my opinion, have a tendency of using it more than black males. But we need it just as much as they need it, as far as they're concerned. And you can apply that yourself also by keeping a log. Exercise is a very good use in your mental health. If you start a regime, and the way I look at things, if you're consistent at doing something for about maybe 2 weeks, then it will become a habit. It will become a habit to whereas you would feel guilty if you didn't do those push-ups, if you didn't make that walk. You'll feel bad about yourself, and you'll find yourself out at 8 o'clock at night doing that walk, because you may not necessarily like it while you're doing it, but what you like about it is when you rest, you say, hey, I accomplished that. I did do that today. That's so it becomes a habit. Just about everything I'm speaking about, except for the professional care, I have done myself. Now, as far as a gym is concerned, you don't necessarily have to utilize a gym. As far as exercise is concerned, you can do that yourself. If you don't know anything about it, then a library is available. I would say now I'm not much to share with somebody about what's on TV or anything like that, but there are a lot of black males, and you can see that they have been utilizing what they're talking about when it comes to utilizing exercise with no weights at all. There are some parks who have outdoor machines. Well, they're not really machines, like pull-up bars, that sort of thing, or some other kind of instrument that's out in the park area. Now, pulling is more difficult than pushing exercises, but you can utilize a form of what I call cheating to accomplish the pulling exercises to get that done. And it doesn't take very long. You can 20 minutes, something like 20 minutes or less. But you will get that done if you once you become a habit, it becomes a habit. Then you may want to, let me stretch that a little bit further, that sort of thing. You get into a regime of doing that on a daily basis. You may want to take a rest where you would not necessarily go out and do something, but you would do something indoors. Sleep. I've heard Gus mention about sleeping properly. Once you make that a habit, it will become, it will stay there. It will stay there, as a habit. Going to bed early, not 3 o'clock in the morning, that sort of thing like that, something like 11 o'clock, that sort of thing. And of course, you're automatically going to wake up 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, that sort of thing. And that's when you can get the exercise done. But if you feel those spaces, with something that's constructive like that, then that will certainly help both physical and mentally, because you'll formed a 7-day-a-week habit that's full of constructive behavior, and the body responds to that. I'm not an expert on it, but I have actually practiced it myself. I've watched others practice it, and it becomes a constructive habit. Gus, when it comes to what you mentioned about the change of the activities on the days, I always leave that with the person who does the most work. The person who does the most work out of it to make that decision. It's cool that you involve others in it. I like the idea. I think you mentioned something about it would help involve people who in other places on the planet. And that's very important, because we all understand that racism, white supremacy is a global problem. And I have seen a lot of attendance by people on your program from all over the world. And that would encourage more of them to participate. If it encourages more of people to participate, then I'm all for it also. And that's all I have to say. Thanks for listening.
Much obliged, retired firefighter in Florida. Painfully, man, underline this one, painfully. In our effort to strive for accuracy, we do not all understand white supremacy racism is a global system. Woof. If we all did, in terms of non-white people, we would make a little bit, at least a teaspoon, more progress. But nope, that is still, we are way short, but trying to do our little bit to head in that direction, hopefully. Much obliged for the excellent suggestions for young academic who was indeed with us at the yoga retreat in Florida. And we went out and did exactly what he, retired firefighter, is talking about, that you do not have to go to the gym to exercise and to take advantage, do some really helpful things. Even if you want to do some strength building, you do not have to go to the gym or buy a lot of equipment to do that. We did that while we were in Florida. We didn't even go to one of the parks where they had, or I even have to retract, because the park may have had the equipment that he is talking about, like pull-up bars and all the rest of it. And they have a lot of that all throughout Seattle, where you can go, and they have, sometimes they have whole like obstacle courses that are set up so you can do, like, oh man, when I was in San Francisco, they, right next to the main library, they have the statue of Dr. Maya Angelou. They have the farmers market is there every Sunday, with this weekend 2 days away. Then right next to it, they have a big civic center, and they have like outdoor yoga, and they have pull-up bars, push-up station, all kind, like crunches, like all kinds of different exercise. And then like they have yoga like right next to all this on Saturday morning. All of this is free, mind you. So yeah, you can take advantage of all of that. Even just walking free. I think retired firefighter has talked about that before. He talked about that during the COVID situation, because sometimes they do shut the gym down. So you go walk. You can walk around the block repeatedly. You know, you can walk 15 times, 20 times, whatever, or one, and build up from there. But walking, jogging, you can go to the track. I have a track right on my block. Nice track too. You can go and do some laps or what have you on a more comfortable surface. Yeah, but do not veg out. I think that is really just horrendous, and a result of that terrorism. Frequently we end up vegging out and eating really bad food, or not eating at all, or sometimes a combination, whatever. And vegging out in front of the television, which can have disastrous health consequences, and still doesn't really address the trauma. You know, it's just kind of escapism. And don't get me started on the self-medicating with, liquor and all the rest of it. Get up, get outside, get some fresh air, move your body around, maybe even break a sweat, get that heart rate up a little bit, whoopee. And then eating some better foods, as I said, not eating a whole bunch of processed white sugar, soda pop, ice cream, liquor, that sort of thing, ultra processed foods, Chips Ahoy, all that nonsense, pizza. No, self-care, eat really, really healthy, yummy foods that will nourish you through all of that trauma, so you can be the best attempted counter-racist to write a great book about thwarting a black male educator. And as I said, it's probably generations of black, because it seemed like even young academic, Nick Over the Road was, hinting at that, saying he was having a flashback, like might have been something similar. I'm not sure, as a student, or if he also wanted to be an educator, and a white woman slammed the door on him too. You're not trying to take me out on the day? Well, then hit the road. I don't know if that's how that happened, but he, said it seemed like it was familiar. It's generations of black male educators have had very, very painfully similar experiences. Number again, 605-313-5164. The code 564943 pound. Press star 61 if you would like to participate. Email number 1. Greetings, Mr. Renegade, callers and listeners. I was wondering if any of the callers and or listeners could suggest any good career counselors, preferably good black career counselors. I'm looking to leave my current employer job and would be interested in considering a different field of work and would like to discuss new career options and the best way to pursue that. Excellent question. I reckon one, if we have any folks who are career counselors, or if you know of black career counselors, let us know. That would be great. Then we can just do direct and be done with it. Patch an email or what have you, and that'll be it. But yeah, do folks know of black career counselors? And I know that would be like, and especially at this point with the alleged encroachment of AI, like how do you even plot out such a course? Is this like a 5-year plan, 10-year plan? Like, even what are we talking about? And then, you know, how radically things are shifting, not year by year, almost day by day, because of all the technological developments and such. But yeah, that would be something, especially, and I said, if you are an attempted parent, this is something you should perhaps know about, because man, if you've got a 10-year-old, now how do you, start helping them think about what they want to do in terms of a career and, studying and what they want to pursue academically in terms of what they might want to pursue as a career? Man, this is something you too should be thinking about. So if we have folks who, have any information with regards to black career counselors, or at minimum non-white career counselors, you can drop me an email, untiljustice@gmail.com. untiljustice@gmail.com. And I can forward, or whatever would be easiest, if we know anyone who is a counselor or has resources to such a person. Let's see. The number 605-313-5164. The code 564943 pound. Press star 61 if you would like to participate. We'll be here on Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Compensatory call-in, catch up on information from the last 7 days. Then we'll have a white guest on Sunday, see if they think white people will voluntarily desist in the practice of white supremacy. Normal time, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We will not have to compete with the Super Bowl or any other brain damage for the foreseeable future. Can put your feet up. White guest, Sunday evening, normal time, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, and related to the book we just finished, Dr. Maya Angelou. So that'll be a hoot through and through Sunday on the cows. Incidentally, I said sometime back, years ago, I said with regards to employment, if you're going to take a job, talking about switching careers and all of that, go to get that new job, do some research on the place that you are applying to, potentially, are going to accept the job offer. Do some research. Is there any history of racism, or just even history period? I mean, if they had safety violations, did they have an outbreak of the Rona during the pandemic a few years back? Like, all of that would be good to know. Now, this came up for me personally. I don't know if people are familiar or not, but they have a soap, Dr. Bronner's soap. I love this stuff. Like, oh my goodness. I think it's kind of expensive. When I say expensive, like if you get a 64-ounce jug of their soap, which is super super concentrated, so you have to add water to it to use. So if you get a 64-ounce jug of their super concentrated soap, it can cost anywhere from $60 to $75 US, anywhere in that range, maybe even more sometimes. So I think that is expensive, right, for soap, which is really, really great. It lasts a long time. Now, even to put that in perspective, it is so concentrated. I got said jug, 64 ounces. I've had said jug for 7 years. I have not used it all. It is still super scented, super strong. It smells amazing. And I mean, if you average that out, so I mean, if you have it for 7 years, let's even put it at $70, that would be $10 a year for amazing soap. And it looks like I will probably get through the end of this year. So it might even drift into 8 years, which would bring the price down a little bit more. How you feel about that in terms of soap that you really, really like it and it lasts that long? Anyway, doing some research, because they are one of those companies that's like white people and we're all about the environment and green and blah, blah, blah and all of that. Man, they had a report in the news, Dr. Bronner Soap, that this company, that they were all about the psychedelic mushrooms and that they had been pushing this to their employees, and one of the employees died, and their spouse, widow now, is saying that they died because Dr. Bronner, them pushing all of these mushrooms on the employees. And I was like, what in the, because like I said, I love this soap. I've had it for years and, you know, all the rest of it. But this was from just the February 6th. Family claims Dr. Bronner's fosters a risky culture of drug use that led to employees' accidental overdose death. And I'm going to skip down just to, okay, here it is. In recent years, the current generation of Bronner family executives, and these are white people, has taken the company's progressive ethos, that word progressive, ethos to another level by openly embracing psychedelic drugs. Since 2019, Dr. Bronner's has contributed more than $14 million to psychedelics research and drug policy reform. The company's social media pages are filled with posts touting the medicinal and spiritual potential of hallucinogens, from psychoben to ketamine to MDMA, also known as ecstasy. What in the... This was my response when I saw all of this last week, February 6th. Like, what? Because I have this sitting on my sink right now. I'm not reading it for those purposes. Like, oh my God, what in the world? It's, oh man, they had been pushing this to employees. That's why I said, like, oh man, like, because I read a little bit. But a wrongful death lawsuit filed in December alleges the company has also fostered a risky culture of drug use among some leaders and employees, claiming they routinely use potent psychedelics as an unregulated form of healing and for recreational purposes. I am not surprised about this at all, because this is a company that I think is headquartered in California. Yeah, based in Vista, V-I-S-T-A, based in California, and they have recreational cannabis. I think they've had it for about a decade down there now, and this is all a part of that whole, you know, hippie so-called white people out on the West Coast, Washington State, Seattle included. But it does not surprise me at all. All of this for the workplace. Oh man, I would want to know all of this if this I thought might be one of my dream jobs, or maybe even it wasn't one of my dream jobs, but I needed. I'm looking to switch careers. I need a job. We had Rob, who was in Wisconsin. He moved out to Southern California. Maybe he sees this like, oh man, I need a job, at least to so-called get on my feet. This seems like a good company. They got good soap. I'll get a job there. And whoa, what do you mean ecstasy? Wait a minute. What's going on? Like, whoa. At minimum, I'm not saying that you see this and don't take the job, but I would much rather know this in advance than I go in it. Nick over the road said I can already write out my responses now. Whoa. I might even want to ask about this in advance. Like, man, do you have to take the ecstasy and the mushrooms? Is that required if I'm going to be a part of the Dr. Bronner team? And see what they say on that one. If they say yes, whoa, whoa, that might be a deal breaker. I don't know. And see, that's even one of those now. Are they going to be giving me dirty looks? I shouldn't even say dirty looks. Are they going to be, looking at me sideways? Oh, Gus don't want the shrooms. Is this going to be, yeah, man, we brought him some old chocolate-covered shrooms for Valentine's, and he said he don't do no shrooms. Is it going to be the same type of thing like when I say, I don't want to do white elephant for Christmas, I don't want to do no gift swap and all of that, and they're going to be looking at me mean mugging me for the next 12 months? Is it going to be that type of thing if I don't want to do ecstasy? I would much rather know that in advance as opposed to I get on the job and come in and they got a mushroom on my desk. Are you out of your flipping mind? Jeez. I was stunned when I saw this, though, like on a lot of work. That was why I filed it was workplace racism. But I mean, oh, man, I love this. So it made me quite like, do I continue to use the soap? I love this stuff. They have better soap. I mean, they have other good soap, but wow. Sobriety would be best. And this is not the first time that I've heard of a workplace, like a professional workplace too, where they promote drug and alcohol use in the workplace. Recreational, as they said in the report, and this is KPBS, SoCal Public Radio. This is not the first time that I've heard of this. And I am not surprised, especially now. You almost got a full generation of THC gummy bears and cannabis jelly beans and CBD everything. I am not surprised. And plus, even you got companies that you can drink at work. They said, well, they'll keep Red Bull and vodka in the refrigerator at work and everything. Toast up, no big deal. We got it left over from the Super Bowl bash. That's the sort of thing, too, I might want to know before I become a part of the team so that just I can be aware. Nick Over the Road said, now I can write all that down and be prepared. And I can even process, is this the sort of environment that I want to be in? How long do I want to be working here where they're popping mushrooms and God knows what else? Now, for sure, we talked about this, but okay, Mike 007 Swango. That sort of environment, I don't use the community refrigerator. My lunch is in the trunk locked every day. I get a cooler. That environment, I do. If I have a water bottle, I get one that locks. And you can get one of those that's cheap. When I say cheap, less than $20. Way cheaper than the Dr. Bronner's soap, like way cheaper. You got to get a real tiny bottle of Dr. Bronner's soap. You want to get one for under $20. But you can get a smart water bottle that will lock. They have some that are fingerprint, so you scan your fingerprint, it locks it in, and so to open it, all you do is put your fingerprint over it, and boop, it will. That's the sort of gizmo that I would have to have if I worked in that sort of environment, because I mean, oh man, I would expect some 007 Swango. That's what I mean. I would want to know that in advance. Like, oh yeah, I'm not using the community refrigerator and have no whoops. You grabbed the wrong sandwich, Gus T. You ate my mushrooms. Or God knows what else. Or they come and pull a prank and slip something in your water bottle. None of that. I would have to have a whole code for, operation and make sure what I consume is exactly what it's supposed to be, has not been tainted or altered, switched out. None of that if I worked in that sort of environment. Like, wow. Just wow. And I would not want to be ignorant about that before I sign on to that sort of operation. Wow. Let's see. Other folks, they have commentary, suggestions for young academic. Your own situation. Do they pop shrooms in your work environment or other hallucinogens? I guess you can let us know that too. The number 605-313-5164. The code 564-943 pound. Press star 61 if you would like to participate. We'll give folks like 5 minutes, see if they have additional comments, observations to share. Forgot it's so-called Negro History Month, so if those shenanigans are going on, if they want to get you in the DEI Scrabble board game or anything else, let us know. I have the same recommendation for that as I do for so-called Valentine's Day. I suggest no thank you. They come and they want you to help put on the Harriet Tubman Remembrance Project. No thank you. Much obliged for thinking of me, but no thank you. my plate runneth over already, as they say. No thank you. And then maybe we can get back to that raise or something, but no. And then a lot of times you do get, and you decide you do want to be a part of the Harriet Tubman Remembrance Project, and then you get to the day before and they renege and decide that, they got to go talk to the legal team and is this a part of the DEI initiative and all the rest of it. So if they ask you to be a part, no thank you. Unless it is as a spectator, and only then. I'm just spectating. At most I have a question, and maybe not even that, but I'm just spectating. That's the most I'm going to do for the Harriet Tubman Remembrance Project or anything similar in the workplace. Let's see. Other folks who are with us have any observations, thoughts to share? Let's see. Hopefully that means we don't have any career counselors who are just hanging out, spectating, and deciding they're not going to speak up. If you do know any black career counselors or non-white, I mean, we'd prefer black because that was what they said. So if you have any career counselors classified as black, if they have a website, anything of that nature, let us know. And then non-white would be secondary. You can share that information as well. Let's see. Bay Area Mom, aforementioned, as I said, I'm going to contact the EEOC folks and let them know that I do know of at least one misgenderer. Bay Area Mom, already guilty, should be with us.
Yes. Hi. Greetings to you all. Good. I don't do it on a purpose. I do it on an accident. So, speaking of misgender, so it's still been tense with the person that I misgender. Her voice is getting even more stern and loud. She's not. So I'm believing she's not enjoying black authority over her, and I just mean as far as positions, the black people are over her. Say, for instance, she works for the case manager, even though she has to report to the case manager. Then, of course, the case manager reports to someone else that's white. But in the after-school program, everybody is black. Now, of course, the people that they report to are not, but just in that setting, they're black. So they're making this person actually work. Okay, so you have this art sector in the program. I need you to do it, not leave it, start it, spend all your time on it, prep. Now, mind you, this person goes home for 45 minutes, then comes back. That could be prep time because you're going home on the clock. You're not going home. You're not clocking out. You're going home on the clock, and you're coming back. So this person even had their girlfriend come into the school. So even today, the girlfriend came to the school to bring coffee and some other whatever foolishness. And this person is a man. One of the children said, "Wow, that's a tall lady," because this person may have had on, I don't know what this person could have had on that make her look like a lady, but it's a she. But this person really looks he-ish. So maybe cosmetics. So it could be cosmetics that make it a difference. And so then the child said, I think the child is like maybe kindergarten that said that. Then the child asked this black young male that works there, he's around maybe 23, asked him, how come you aren't tall? Because he's not tall like that tall woman. So it's confusing for the children. It's so confusing with all this stuff going on. Now, it looks like they're not interested in this person coming during school hours, but after school, this person can come in. Because I'm only saying that because they go to the front now instead of this person coming into the school, because this person would just come all into the school, but now they don't. They stay at the door. And the other one that I misgender, she comes down and receives her victuals. But after school, the principal's not there or anything like that, so then you can, slip in, so to speak. So we had, this person runs the table. They stay in the classroom all day, basically assisting the teacher. There's the teacher assistant, para. The way they talk to the lady, the black lady now that runs the class, it's as if it's kind of. I'll give you an example. So this person, I was telling you about how she would yell at one of the little girls, and now I think too there's a little agitation because the father didn't allow her to stay for the Pride Parade. Mind you, this was I don't remember when that Pride Parade was, but maybe September, or I don't, but that it could have been September. Anyway, it's still been a little with this child. Now, mind you, the child has no say in anything, but so this girl, she wants to wash her hands. And mind you, we all have special needs. Not general education class at all. So this child, she's going to come to the table. Okay, you come to the table now. Okay, you come in 10. I need, give me my hand, look. So then she showed this person, go get your folder. Go get your folder. So the teacher is, the head teacher is saying, well, you can just say, okay, first get your folder, then go wash your hands. He looked at her. You come in 10, 9, 8. So that's why I misgender, because she sounds like that. So the little girl comes, to get to 1. Okay, now mind you, if that child got to wash their hands, you did, because she never followed the teacher's suggestion or instruction, never followed her little black instructions. She made her sit down, waited a minute. Now, this minute could have been used, minute or two could have been used for this child washing her hands. Not even that, since, the children have little things going on. You can always have those hand wipes, because we have a whole lot of hand wipes. You can have one at your table, and you could have just gave her one of those if you didn't even want her to leave the table. So, no big deal. Now, wait for a minute. Okay, now, how are you? How are you doing today? Oh, how are you, Miss Josie? So it's just like, well, how are you? And so it just turned into something else. And I know the teacher felt the way because that the child never got to wash their hands. And it's just the tone now. Even when they're talking, the tone is, okay, I guess I could do that. Yeah, it's just different now. And I think it's collective too. So you can't act funny with me because I don't care. I don't care if you talk to me, don't talk to me, like me, or don't. So, and I don't even notice you because I'm doing what I have with the children. So I would get a hi, and then it's just like, hey, how you doing? How you doing? How you doing? I'm doing. How you doing? I'm here. But they're getting tired of the children. I'm not in these spaces as often. I just come and go. I might stay 20, 30, 45 minutes for, but that's the longest, and that's only in pieces. So the little first grader that spits, and that he spits, hits the one that is not, the one that I have to change. So he must have had a behavior, did something and threw something, but it didn't hit the teacher. He was throwing it at the black teacher, but he didn't hit it. So one of the young black male said, so should I mark this as maybe, some kind of aggressive behavior? I'm like, nah, you don't have to mark it. Because he didn't hit me or anything. He didn't do anything. Like, so, but it still was aggressive behavior. It's like, well, no, he didn't. No, don't mark it. So the guy, the lady, the lady, she said, well, it hit me. Well, it almost hit me. Like, where you come from? You want the child in trouble? So it makes me think if that person were to have more power in the school, how they could really mess a child up. So we're off for a break. We don't come back until, 10 days from now or something. So we get a good break. And we're still open for, aftercare, daycare and stuff. So they're open next week, but the staff doesn't have to be there, only the ones watching, the kids. And so that'll be good for the parents that need that help. And I think it's very interesting having this lady with these children. We had a talent show tonight, or it was night early. So we had a talent show this afternoon, evening, and they gave a schedule what time this person was to show the art, display the artwork for the children that, now it's time to display this stuff. So she said, well, we'll be ready around 4:30. No, you'll be ready at 4:10 because that's what it says on the schedule. What? Yeah. What do you mean you'll be ready at 4:30? So what time you go home in 15 minutes after that? No, we got this to where you doing this. So it's 4:10. Look at the schedule, and the schedule was already made. Even look at the schedule. Oh, well, I got to hurry up and get the kids doing that. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. I don't know what you thought. And it was cute. It was all scribble scrabble, a waste of sketch paper. It could have just been any blank, scribble books, doodle books for these children. This person had them go buy expensive sketchbooks, and oh my goodness, it was a disaster. It was nothing but TK scribble scrabble, kindergarten scribble scrabble, and I'm like, no. So just the kids. They said they're looking like they really are master teachers. They were, yes. So, and then I got the kids juice behind me so that they could juice the kids up because they standing in front of all these people. So it was cute. It wasn't worth putting in sketchbooks, like for real sketchers. Oh, I was so offended when I saw those sketchbooks full of scribble scrabble because it could have been any books, not sketchbooks. So, it was nice. It was cute just to see the kids because they were so excited. But I don't know. I don't know how it'll be when we get back from the break. Hopefully everybody will get enough rest to where we can make it for the next 3 months with these children without unnecessary pressure on them. And I will mute my line. Thank you.
I forgot, Bay Area mom, since you're an educator, young academic, privileged black male. He shared with us earlier, I think you might have missed it, but he shared with us that he heard updates about racist white female teachers and how they've messed over the students, been fired, and these are the same folks who got him out of the program, so he's no longer teaching. And he said it's been really stressful, and he was asking for suggestions. It's been weighing on his mental health, all of this, even though he's back to substituting presently. As a current educator, do you have any suggestions on how he manages mental health? I know you didn't get to hear him directly, but that's kind of the main thrust of what he shared with us. Any tips on how you would manage this, or do you need to process it, think about it more? Oh, are you with us, Bay Area Mom? I'm not sure if you muted or she might have.
Oh, I did mute, and I was just talking. I apologize. So I do remember his story. I do remember that, and it would be awful for me to listen because he would really have a hard time. The education system is white woman ran, and they do step all over those children, and he had a lot of hard times with these people in these schools. They made it complicated for him. I suggest him pull himself out of it, pull back. Don't get too, well, we have the program, so he does know what to look out for, but just don't get too attached. If he's substituting, you're just substituting and going. You could probably find a charter school if you'd like. That might be a little more flexible as far as not being so focused on you versus they could be doing something else. The white women are going to do that, especially the black males, because they need to break you down. You're going to have those experiences with these white women because they want to be in control. They don't need you coming in there doing any of your magic with these children, and they want to be the ones to get all the credit. They're going to make it complicated for you, so you have to figure out, take notes, write down stuff, pull yourself out of it. Don't get too emotionally involved, and since you're substituting, you just stick and move. And every day is your last day. You're not tripping. You're a substitute. And if you want to be permanent, find you a little private or charter school to where, or even a college, to where you don't even have to deal with them. Get your assignment, go on about your business. You don't. These wicked white women, they have a different agenda with the schools, and a lot of it is feminizing it. Feminizing the whole realm, pushing you out. They need softer men in real life in these schools. They don't want stern, structured males. They need soft men, you can almost turn into a woman or similar. Someone married that always talks about their wife and kids. That's what they want. They don't want anything suspicious because the agenda is to break down, especially the black boys. They're breaking down these black boys, turning them into girls or machines, and getting these girls in many different directions so they're not even compatible. There's another agenda with these children, so pull yourself back emotionally. Take notes. If you're substituting, you're just coming and going anyway. You don't even care. They're just assignments. Look at them as assignments and pull yourself back. Thank you.
Much obliged, Bay Area Mom. In terms of managing your emotional engagement, both with the children and with, as she said, the assignment in general. This is lowercase a assignment. Doing this teaching, this is just the gig. I'm working, and even with regards to when people come to give you updates and such, that might mean pulling yourself back, managing your emotions there as well to, no, I'm not even in a space to hear all of that. As we said before, I'm not even in a space to hear that at the moment. Thank you kindly, but we can switch the topic to something else. Much obliged. Managing my emotions, and that's all of this is to be expected. Like I said, it's been generations of black males, I guess, both from the student perspective and the attempted teacher perspective, who have gone through this terrorism. So, do everything that you can to kind of self-preservation and self-care, and managing your emotions so that you can get through this safely as possible in a environment of terrorism, white terrorism. Much obliged, Bay Area Mom. She's told us 2 weeks in a row about this white person going home on the clock, and then they come back to school to do their work and grouse that they don't have enough time or whatever the case may be. I don't know. Some environments that's fine. You can leave if you have that time or whatever. But she said it's on the clock. Like, I don't know. Like, they have cameras in a lot of school environments, especially on the teacher parking lot or parking lots in general. So they would be aware, like, oh man, such and such a vehicle, is leaving. Like, school's still in session. Wow. I'm sure if Bay Area mom tried to pull something like that, I don't know if she could get away with that. Like, But yeah, I would say if you are non-white, I wouldn't say view that and think that you can go and do the same thing. Might be trouble. She said that the white person who accuses her of misgendering, that she was, or the person was talking like a drill sergeant, counting down about being able to go and get your hand washed. I thought we were just, COVID-19, and they were saying it was still a problem in some areas and all that. Like, hey, 20, at least let's count down from 20. She's doing all the and the same thing I say all the time. Like, I thought the people who are hired to work in these positions, if these are special needs, young people, children, why don't we have maximum patience? It always seems like they are very hostile and aggressive and punitive and just for hand washing. Dang, gee whiz. And then you wonder, the children, wow, that person is really tall. Like, when, see, we got Mr. Fuller's word again. Confusion. That is what keep non-white. What? Are we going to have a job? Are we going to have a place to stay? What? Is this a man? Is this a woman? Answer to all. Who knows? Dang. Like, I don't even know if that's a male or female in front. Nope. Who knows? Confusion. It is really hard to even get on the road to universal man, universal woman if you have that much confusion dominating your life. Man, I don't know which way is up, much less. They even, in that Negro History Month, Richard Pryor, which way is up? Hey. Anyway, black culture, that's Negro culture right there. Anyway, it is very hard to replace white supremacy with justice, or really do anything even to sleep correctly, if you got that much confusion dominating your existence. And that is exactly what white people do by design. I will say too, she said, talking about Bay Area mama, misgenderer, serial misgenderer, in fact, she said that she thinks this suspected race soldier who's coming in, contempt for gender and all that, and real low voice and everything, she said that she thinks some of this is whatever, this person being upset about at least directly having to answer to black people. At least directly, right? Not on a macro level, but on a micro level. She has black people that she has to answer to. She thinks that's a source of frustration, may even, I say, a source of emasculation. If I'm supposed to be a white man and I'm having some anxiety about that, white genetic annihilation, and then in my immediate existence, I feel that my white power has been diminished because I got to answer to these niggers. Ugh. I have contempt for all of this, And then they put me in the after-school program where I have to answer to more niggers. Ugh. That might even be. I know the schedule says we're supposed to do this at 4:10. We're gonna do it at 4:30. In fact, I'm gonna go home at 4:10. I get back and then see if we'll get started at 4:30. That's sort of, and Fuller talked about that too. He talked about that exactly because he said back when he was confused, like us, still learning. And he said, man, I thought we just go to the job, show up on time, we get our best suit, best dress, we go in there and show them we learn a little bit, be competent to this. Hey, that Fuller is all right. We thought he was old Burrhead Coon, and that's not the case. Fuller is all right. That is not what this is about at all. They do not care how competent, punctual, none of that. Really, the more competent and punctual you are, the more repulsed they are, especially the darker, bigger. He said he did not understand that at all at first. And sad, what I said before, painfully, 2025, many of us non-white people still do not grasp that at all. He said white people totally lose interest. You done just tossed me in here. I am a white man. I am a white woman. You don't toss me in there with these other niggras. And then I got to answer to leave. Oh, God. Oh, is this the Planet of the Apes? Is this the planet? Am I a white man? And see, no. Now you're misgendering me too. I got to answer to these misgendering niggras. I'm going home. That's probably a part of it too. I just go home, the niggers will tell me if I'm in trouble, and then I'll accuse them of misgendering me. Maybe even shed some tears. I guess is that put it in quotes, weeping white woman? Put the rainbow flag next to that one. Man. Any hoodles. She said they could have doodled and see they put some sort of Mickey Mouse operation like that where the children are doodling in the books and they put the black people in charge, even though you got a white person immediately. She said white people are in charge of the after school part of this, in charge. And that's what you get. We go and doodle and waste scrapbooks. We could have got recycling paper, save money, save trees, and when you play around with sex, there you go. Much obliged, Bay Area Mom. The number again, 605-313-5164. The code 564-943 pound. Press star 61 if you would like to participate. Do not wait till the last moment. You think you have observations, commentary, especially if you have suggestions, because we desperately need constructive strategies to neutralize racist woman, racist man in the workplace. And even sometimes, we have a lot of problems with non-white people where we can be hostile to one another, name call one another in the workplace, or unjust to one another in the workplace. So minimizing conflict. I think Nick Over the Road talked about that too. And hey, it's minimizing conflict, even in the workplace, maybe especially in the workplace. That's why I'm also a big advocate. We are just talking about workplace things that at least can greatly minimize. It's generally people don't, break out in the fisticuffs talking about the copying machine. Generally, people don't break out in the fisticuffs over the annual review. Generally. Things that are related to what's happening at the job, parking place, all that sort of thing, new fiscal budget. Generally, people don't have fisticuffs about that. Now, when we drift off and start talking about, whatever, how much money you lost on the Super Bowl, and, what's the difference between a black boy and a niggra, now we, even with other non-white people, let's just stick to workplace, the job, what we are paid to do, the lowercase a assignment. That right there can go a long way, I have found, to minimizing conflict. It won't totally eliminate because, oh man, you have a lot of shenanigans there too. And you'll even discover that, dang, a lot of these folks are not even really on task. Like they're doing that. Sometimes is the conflict. Can we get back on task? Well, I just wanted to Mess around a teaspoon. I mean, dang, you got to just work all day long. Sometimes that will be the conflict. But I would much rather have it be that way, us having conflict where I'm, suggesting that we get back on task, as opposed to, where we started off talking about Drake and man, it went downhill from there. In a non-constructive way, it went downhill from there. Like, see, that sort of thing. Like, come on. Any hoodles. But we'll be here on Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, compensatory call-in, and then Sunday, same time, white woman, racist suspect, related. We just finished up Dr. Maya Angelou's memoir, chatting about that for Sunday, and racism, white supremacy in a very direct way. White woman. Been talking about this evening, a white woman coming on Sunday. No brain damage, so you can tune in uninterrupted. Dare I say, turn off the screen. And we'll chat, interrogate with this suspected race soldier on Sunday. Let's see. Many hoodles. Make sure I share as well. If you have difficulty for folks, if you are attempting to dial in anywhere in the world, I know sometimes it'll be like a charge. They'll say, you dial in, it's going to charge a fee to your phone. Like, race soldiers have all kinds of obstacles. There is a free app you can download for your phone, iPhone, Android, whatever. You can download it for free. Free conference call HD, and you'll see the app. You can download it onto your phone. You can use the app to dial in for free anywhere in the known universe. It is very simple to use. We've had a number of guests and listeners who used the app where it looks just like a dial pad on your phone. Use the same number to dial in, 605-313-5164. Code should be right there, 564-943#. It'll be right there. Dial in. Same procedure. If you want to listen, you'll be hooked in. It'll start playing automatically. And then if you want to participate, it is the same procedure, *61, and you can raise your hand. We can bring you onto the line. Just another option if you get that. I know it happens to a number of people, or if you just have the typical mysterious interference that many, including myself, have dealt with for years trying to call in to Live Cal's programs. That is another option, and you can avoid the fee. You can listen. I've been told it works generally pretty well around the world. Like I said, we've had guests who've used it, and they were clear. It's in the archive. So just another option if you would like to participate live. That's it. Let's see. Did we miss anybody who had commentary, suggestions to add for our February 14 so-called Valentine's Day broadcast? Other folks with commentary to share?
Can I be heard?
Nick over the road. Yes, sir. Did you have commentary?
Yeah, well, I wanted to ask you, what time on Sunday? Pacific.
Always same time, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, unless we have somebody from overseas, over yonder, different time zone. Always 5 p.m. Pacific broadcast time, same as today, 5 p.m. Pacific for Sunday, and then same thing for tomorrow, 5 p.m. Pacific for compensatory call-in. But Sunday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. Let's see. Did we think we grabbed everyone? I didn't see any other suggestions. Best to young academic, well, I guess it would be twofold. So if folks find resources for career counselors, you can drop me an email at untiljustice@gmail.com, and I'll forward the information along. I guess black career counselors And then secondary, non-white career counselors, much appreciated, untiljustice@gmail.com. And then if we have any suggestions, if they have any useful apps, we heard that one, or websites, anything else in terms of black therapists, particularly those in the thinking of Dr. Welsing, thinking and practice, legacy of Dr. Welsing, where they incorporate racism, counter-racism into their practice, then that would be grand. You can drop an email and I can forward that along to Young Academic, especially if they have any sort of sliding scale, or you can get free services for a number of visits. That would be mega appreciated. Sometimes they'll have like finders for black therapists in your area. So you can find any resources with that regards. Let us know. Much obliged. I'll let folks know about the therapist, or excuse me, I'll let folks know updates tomorrow, and then about the change in program time as well. I know for Nick over the road, I have heard Dr. Umar, he's been a guest on the C.O.W.S many other times, I have heard him also say that Dr. Joy DeGruy, who's been a guest on the C.O.W.S, say that what she talks about is not something of the past, it is ongoing. And then I forgot the exact terminology, but he has a different phrasing. It's not the same phrasing that you use. It's very different, but it's addressing the same, I guess, different viewpoint, that this is not talking about trauma or abuse that is done, complete, and happened a long time ago. This is continuous, ongoing abuse that people are having psychological and emotional responses to. That's one person who has addressed that as something that should be corrected. Let's see. I think got everything in. I didn't see any other hands or emails, so I'll assume folks are good. Cat Williams, how could I forget that? Young Academic said he is afraid of white women. Well, Cat Williams said he is afraid of white women too. And that's why he, I guess, does a lot of name calling of other black people, because ooh-wee, I don't want that smoke with them white women. Like, oh my God, maybe same way they kick Young Academic out of the classroom, maybe they kick Cat Williams off the stage. You go up there and get to offending and talking bad about them white women. Like, ooh, you better get back over there and talk about Diddy. You better get back over there and say something about Drake. You don't want this smoke with us white women. And Cat Williams agreed. He was, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Wait, let me tell you about Drake real quick. Get back to my elevator insults with these other black people. Woo! Pitiful. which Fuller said, still true, sadly, worthy of tremendous pity. P-I-T-Y. We will be here in about 24 hours. Nothing at all to be ashamed of. Young Academic, nothing at all. Angry, absolutely. Not ashamed. Not ashamed at all. In fact, much obliged having the courage to dial in and share, because, I mean, even Nick over the road said, man, that is, I've heard that before. I'm sure it's a whole lot of folks listening and beyond. Yes, I have experienced that. Tried to be a black teacher, and the gatekeeper, racist white woman said no, especially after I didn't want to go out on a so-called date with her. Gate was slammed shut. Bam! Now I'm out here mopping the floor. Generations of that. We'll be here on Saturday and Sunday, same time, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Sobriety would be best, even if they try and push the mushrooms and ecstasy and liquor on you in the workplace. Sobriety would be best. Creator, remind us to demonstrate the highest levels of black self-respect at all times, in all places, each and every time we are in contact with another black person. It has been time. Replace white supremacy with justice immediately. No name-calling other black people. No gossiping. No throwaway offspring. Cal signing out. Thanks all for tuning in.
Nigga, you so brainwashed.
I'm a victim, brother.
Problem. You're a victim.
Yeah. I'm a victim of 400 years of conditioning.
Shut up.
The man has programmed my conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
Even my conditioning has been conditioned.